actually doing it, if that makes any sense. Actually, I mean, it's very nerve-wracking leading up to sim lab. There's paperwork you have to do, research, and even when we're first sitting in here, everybody's real quiet, everybody's very nervous. But once you get started, and usually we go through the sim at least twice, and especially by that second time, you just feel like you're in your element, your adrenaline's rushing, so everything seems to go smoother the second time, and you leave with this big sigh of relief. You're like, that wasn't so bad. It, you know, usually goes way better than you would expect it to. I think I benefited a lot. It's such a realistic situation. You wouldn't think that it would be, but they have it set up so it's just very, very realistic. You don't know everything that's going to happen before it happens. They may try and prepare you for it a little bit, but they still throw curveballs, and it's like a real life situation. Definitely the Code Blue simulation. It was very realistic. We weren't standing in there and somebody said go. We were all in here talking, and all of a sudden we heard a loud crash, which was supposed to signify that something had happened, so we run in, and Stan was on the floor. He wasn't laying in bed. It doesn't always happen like that. You don't always have him hooked up to telemetry to know. So we just heard a loud crash, and we go in, and he'd collapsed on the floor. There's lots and lots of people in there. It's almost overwhelming, but that's really how it is in real life. Everybody rushes to the code, and someone starts CPR, then you get respiratory in there. In one case, we had Stan's family in there who's very worried, and you have to focus on, you know, comforting the family, but knowing that Stan is your priority. A little bit, I was in my clinical. I was at Parkview, and I was on the 7th floor, just taking care of my patient. And over the loudspeaker, they called a Code Blue, and kind of rushed out into the hall to see everybody rushing down to the other side of the hall. And I had just had the Code Blue simulation here, I mean, maybe 2 weeks before. It probably wasn't even that long. So my heart just started pounding, and we run into the room, and 2 of the students were already in the room. 2 of my fellow classmates were already in the room. So we're talking to them, and one of them started recording, and everything was, you know, pretty chaotic. But at first, I almost kind of thought, oh, I shouldn't be here. I should let the nurses do this. Then you just settle for a minute, and you think, no, I can help. I can do something. So I stayed in the room. At first, they were doing chest compressions on the patient, and he did not have a backboard under him, and he was in the bed. And one of the things that we had been taught to do was to make sure that if you're in the bed, the chest compressions aren't going to be as effective if they don't have a backboard under them. So someone ran and got the backboard. I started doing compressions. And, I mean, it was hard work. It's not, you know, especially with your adrenaline pumping and your heart's racing and you're just sitting there doing chest compressions, it got to be pretty hot. I did notice that there were students from another school that were all just kind of crowded outside, and I thought it was kind of neat how the St. Francis students that had just had sim lab were coming in and trying to take their turn, trying to help, see what they could do. I mean, I had people asking me, hey, are you tired? Do you need someone to do this for a little while? So for a while I took the ambu bag and I was doing that while another student was doing chest compressions. It was a couple minutes before the code team got there, and they took over.